He wanted you to explode. That was the entire plan. Not to win the argument, but to make you lose your composure in front of everyone watching. And for the first 10 seconds, it was working. Your face went hot. Your hands curled. Every muscle in your body loaded itself for a fight that would have cost you your reputation, not his.
Then you did something he never planned for. You did nothing at all. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what that nothing was, why it is 2,000 years old, and why it works on literally anyone who is trying to provoke you. This is not a debate tactic. It is a move so quiet, most people never notice it happening until they're the one on the receiving end. It's a Tuesday morning quarterly review. 12 people around a table, your director at the head of it, and across from you sits Daniel, a coworker who has spent the last 6 months positioning himself for the promotion you both want. You present your numbers. They're solid. And right as you finish, Daniel leans back and says loud enough for the whole room to hear that he's surprised you're the one presenting this, given what happened last quarter. A few people laugh uncomfortably. Your director looks up, and you feel it, that first spike of heat behind your sternum, the exact reaction Daniel was hoping to trigger. But Daniel wasn't finished. He'd been building to this for weeks. He starts listing specifics, small failures, some real, some exaggerated, stitched together into a story designed for one purpose, to make you defend yourself badly in front of the one person whose opinion decides your next 6 months. This is the moment most people lose, not because they're wrong, but because they answer too fast with too much emotion, and the room remembers the emotion far longer than it remembers the facts. Here is where the Stoics would have told you to look not at Daniel, but at the half-second gap between his words landing and your mouth opening. Epictetus called that gap the only territory a person actually owns in a conflict. Everything before it belongs to the other person. Everything after it belongs to you if you're fast enough to claim it. He used to compare it to archery. An archer controls the draw, the aim, the release. Once the arrow leaves the string, the wind decides the rest. Daniel's words are the wind. You don't control that he said them. You control the draw, the half-second before your own response leaves the string. Most people never realize they're holding a bow at all. They think the arrow fired itself. You widen that gap, one breath, long enough for Daniel to notice you're not reacting on schedule. And that's when he made his first mistake. Silence unsettles people who are used to getting a reaction, and Daniel fills the space himself, repeating the accusation, this time sharper, hoping volume will do what the first version didn't. Instead of defending yourself, you ask him a question, calm, specific, not hostile. Which quarter are you referring to, and what would you have done differently? Watch what just happened. An accusation wants a defense to collide with. A question gives it nothing to collide with at all. Daniel pauses because he prepared an attack, not an answer. The room's attention shifts, almost imperceptibly, from you to him. But even that wasn't the moment that actually broke his momentum. Daniel changes tactics. He turns to Priya, another analyst on the team, and asks her, in front of everyone, whether she remembers the deadline slipping too, trying to recruit a witness against you. This is a common move in real confrontations, whether in a meeting or a marriage. When the direct attack stalls, people search for reinforcements, a second voice to make their version of events feel like consensus instead of opinion. Priya hesitates, unsure whether to get pulled in, and this is exactly the moment where most people, sensing the room tilting against them, panic and start talking faster, defending harder, trying to out-argue 2 people instead of 1. That panic is precisely what Daniel needs from you.
You don't take the bait. You don't address Priya at all. You let the question hang there unanswered, because it was never actually a question for you. It was a performance for the room. and performances without a reaction to validate them tend to feel smaller the longer they sit in silence. Your director shifts in his seat. Something about the exchange has started to feel less like an accusation and more like a display, and everyone in the room can sense it, even if no one says so yet. Your Daniel recovers and mentions one specific miss, a real one, a project that did slip its deadline last quarter. This is the part almost nobody can do under pressure, and it's the part that ends the entire exchange in one sentence. You agree with him. You're right. That project missed its deadline, and that's on me. No excuse, no pivot, no counter-accusation. Just a flat, calm confirmation of the one true thing buried inside his attack. Marcus Aurelius wrote that he always held the power to withhold judgment about a thing, and that this alone protected his peace more than any argument ever could. He wasn't talking about ignoring reality. He was talking about refusing to let an accusation, true or false, become an emotional event. An argument needs resistance to survive. Agreement isn't resistance. It's open air. And Daniel's momentum, built entirely on the assumption that you'd fight him, has nothing left to push against. He tries once more, reaching for something bigger, vaguer, an attack on your competence rather than a specific event. And this is where it becomes visible to everyone in the room that something has shifted. Daniel is now the one raising his voice. Daniel is now the one repeating himself. Daniel is now the one whose face has gone red in a meeting he started specifically to make that happen to you. Your director finally speaks, redirecting the meeting, and you realize the confrontation is already over, not because you won an argument, because you never agreed to have the argument Daniel was trying to start. After the meeting, Daniel corners you near the elevator, not to apologize, but to test whether the calm was real or whether you'd been holding it together for an audience. He makes one more comment, quieter this time, meaner, designed for a room with no witnesses. And here's the part that would have surprised him most. There's nothing left to hold together. The composure in the meeting wasn't a performance you were maintaining. It was simply the absence of something you'd refused to pick up in the first place. You can't run out of a reaction you never carried. This is the part people miss when they study conflict. They think the goal is a clever comeback. The Stoics understood something colder and more useful. Most confrontations are not fights over facts. They're attempts to make you assign a verdict, an emotional judgment, to something someone else said. Refuse to assign it, and the entire mechanism of the argument has nothing to run on. Seneca noticed something 2,000 years before modern psychology gave it a name. Anger rarely shows up alone. It's almost always fear wearing a louder costume. Fear of losing status. Fear of being exposed. Fear of losing control of a room. Daniel wasn't actually angry about a missed deadline from 6 months ago. He was afraid of losing a promotion, and he needed you to look worse than him to feel safer. Once you see that pattern, and you will start seeing it everywhere, confrontations stop feeling personal. You stop responding to the words being thrown at you and start responding to the fear generating them. That single shift in perception is often enough to keep you calm, even when the other person is not. Catch the gap before your mouth fills it. Answer accusations with questions instead of defenses. Agree openly with whatever is actually true, and let the rest go unclaimed. Remember that the volume in front of you is almost always fear, not strength. And when there's nothing left worth saying, let silence do the work you were about to do with words. None of this requires raising your voice, because raising your voice was never the goal. It requires refusing to hand someone a verdict they were hoping you'd deliver on command. That's it. That's the entire trick. It looks like nothing from the outside, which is exactly why it works. Nobody can escalate a fight against a person who never agreed to start one.
Here's the part nobody shows you in the highlight version of a story like this. You didn't invent that composure in the room. You'd been rehearsing it for months, in far smaller moments. The slow driver who cut you off, the email that felt like a jab, the comment at dinner that stung more than it should have. Every one of those was practice you didn't know you were doing. Marcus Aurelius wrote himself notes every morning, walking through the exact kinds of people and provocations he expected to face that day, so that nothing arrived as a surprise. He wasn't predicting the future, he was preloading his response to it. That's the part of the trick most people skip because it isn't dramatic. Nobody films themselves staying calm about a slow driver, but that's the rehearsal. If you only try to stay composed the first time it actually matters, in a promotion review, a breakup, a courtroom, you're testing a skill you never trained. Calm under real pressure is never the first attempt, it's the 100th. The same 5 moves work with a partner who's trying to provoke you into a fight neither of you will remember starting. They work with a stranger looking for an excuse to escalate. They work with family members who've spent years learning exactly which words make you lose your composure fastest. Picture the same trick at a dinner table. A relative bringing up an old mistake in front of everyone, hoping for the same eruption they got 5 years ago. The gap, the question, the honest agreement on whatever part is true, the recognition that the comment is really about their own unresolved resentment, not yours. The scenery changes, the mechanism never does. Someone offers you a verdict, you are never obligated to accept delivery. Most people spend their entire lives reacting on command, mistaking speed for strength. The Stoics trained the opposite muscle, the ability to feel the provocation fully and still choose, deliberately, whether to hand over their calm. That choice, repeated enough times, stops being effortful. It becomes who you are in a room. Thank you for watching. If you want to keep building this exact skill, the ability to stay unshaken while everyone around you is escalating, subscribe to Stoic Spring. Every video here trains the same muscle, one confrontation at a time. I'll see you in the next one.